Hey there, West Michigan meteorologist Will Haney here, coming to you live. It is Thursday night, a little later than I intended to be on this Facebook Live. It's about 9:22 at night. I hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day and an even better Thursday, even though Thursday's weather was not quite as pleasant. We're going to touch on that. The snow that we saw this morning, a little bit more impressive up closer to I-96. The Grand Rapids area, Kent County, Montcalm, Mecosta counties, Ottawa counties, seeing a little bit more snow than the rest of us. Nonetheless, it was still a quick hitting batch of some wet, clumpy snow in Kalamazoo, right kind of at an inconvenient time for that morning rush hour. So we did see some incidences of some slide-offs and unfortunately a few wrecks as well. But it was a lot more significant in and around Grand Rapids this morning. Good evening, Shannon. I hope you're doing well. Good to see you on here. I'm just going to give this a few more seconds for some folks to join in. I'm also going to share this to my page over here on stage left or right, depending on your perspective. Once I do that, we will get the conversation really going. We got the live look over Kalamazoo on the left. It's a nice, pretty view of the Kalamazoo Mall. Shout out the Kalamazoo Mall. All right. This will just take me 1 second. All right. I think I did the thing. I think I did what I was trying to do. Let's see. I think I did. All right. Facebook's always playing tricks on me. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to my graphics, and we're going to talk about the forecast. There's decent amount going on. A decent amount to talk about here in the next couple of days. All right, so this is a live look at a few locations. Right now, things are quiet. We did see some lake clearing after a very cloudy, very windy day. Temps are in the lower 30s. The wind at the lakeshore was pretty significant. The waves are dying down a little bit. During my weathercast at 5 o'clock, during our newscast, there was a wave that crashed the pier, and the spray was almost twice as big as the North Little Light. Really cool there in South Haven. Obviously, those piers were closed a little bit earlier today. When you factor in the fact that we still have a little bit of some gusty winds, it is feeling a little chilly out there, but the wind not nearly as significant as it was earlier. And, I hesitate to even call that all that gusty, but still some gusts up to about 20 to 25. Earlier on, those gusts were about 40 to 45. They really peaked kind of in the early to mid-afternoon. So there's still a decent wind chill out there, still in the lower 20s if you're walking Fido, as Keith always says. I got to channel my inner Keiths because I'm filling in for him tonight. But I want to give some shout-outs. Good evening, Ryan. Ryan, definitely don't click whatever Ryan is putting down. It's promising some money. That definitely seems legit. Brittany, hello, Will. I hope you're having a good night, Brittany. Thank you. And good evening from Sturgis Kathy. And hello, Susan from your living facility in Portage. We appreciate you too. All right. Really quickly, before we get into the forecast, which is kind of exciting, we get a shot of some more winter weather in the next couple of days. I just wanted to touch on it. Did some reporting yesterday on this, but officially February so far, the first half of February at least, is the warmest first half of February we've ever seen in West Michigan, at least in the historical records, which date back to the late 1800s. So in about 130 years, this February has been the warmest first half of February on record. It's pretty remarkable when you really think about it. Some other crazy stats. Last week, we saw 2 consecutive record-setting highs of 62 degrees. I believe that was maybe Thursday, Friday. It was either last Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday. Can't remember. We also, up until yesterday, 2 days ago, hadn't seen a day with a high temperature colder than 40 degrees, which is pretty crazy for February, considering our average highs this time of year in the lower to mid 30s. So up until, I think it was the 13th, we didn't see a day where we didn't at least make it up to about 40 degrees, which is pretty wild, which is, of course, factoring into also a lack of snow. As of today, this morning, we picked up about an inch briefly in Kalamazoo, but we still have about a 6-inch deficit when we compare that to average. All right, so I know you're not probably hopping on here for a climatology lesson, although I like to drop some knowledge. We're going to get into the forecast now. Tonight through early tomorrow morning, after our little clearing, there's a system scooting on by to our south. We're going to see kind of the cloud cover associated with that. Not a ton of snow for us, although they will see some minor accumulations across portions of like central Illinois, central Indiana. So anyone traveling farther south tomorrow might get a little dicey at times. But we'll just be on the increase as far as that cloud cover through tomorrow morning. And we will see some chillier air as well. Some middle 20s or so, lower to mid 20s to start the day tomorrow. Cloud cover keeps coming into the afternoon, but you notice that blue that starts to crop up into the afternoon and evening. Some scattered snow showers are possible tomorrow. I think during the day, impacts are going to be very minimal. It's not until Friday night into Saturday morning where we could have some very minor impacts. This will be some lake effect snow. You can see it there kind of forming. That's Friday at 10 o'clock. Notice the temperatures too. We're pretty consistently in those 20s, eventually dropping into the upper teens, low 20s by early Saturday. So there's a little secondary push of cold. We've gotten a lot colder in the last 24 hours, but then there's going to be another batch of even colder air late Friday into Saturday morning, and that's what's going to foster just some additional lake effect snow showers. Pause. Y'all, I've been dealing with it. I got sick like literally 2.5 weeks ago, and I still have a little nasally congestion. It's very annoying. I promise I'm not contagious. I feel fine. It's just very annoying. But anyways, I digress. We have some lake effect snow late Friday into Saturday morning. I think mainly west of 131. You see it there. It kind of shuts off into Saturday afternoon. So somewhat of a limited opportunity or a limited window for that lake effect snow. And unlike lake effect events earlier in the season, like in the November, December timeframe, we won't see like that mammoth lake effect like we saw a few times earlier in the year. This will be, possibly an accumulation for some of you. But right now, I think the upper limit of accumulation looks to be about 1 to 3 inches. That area of slightly darker blue is kind of the area to watch for this. This is a northwest wind setup. That's kind of typically where we see, maybe the slightly more impressive area of lake effect in these sort of scenarios. Again, the timing for this for some possible impacts would be Friday night into the first half of Saturday, somewhat similar to what we had this morning, just a little bit of light slush or a light bit of snow, just enough, where you just got to give yourself a few extra minutes. Unfortunately, I feel like since we hadn't had snow in like 3+ weeks, I think some of us forgot how to drive in snow and just we're not being cautious this morning. And remember, just even the littlest bit of slush, you got to take it seriously. Hello, Chris Kinsey. What's up, Chris Kinsey? Yankee Springs Township Fire Department. Good evening. Thank you for all you do. Craig with a kind of unique spelling, Craig. That's kind of a cool Craig spelling. Coldwater. What up? Patty. Hello. Larry from Newton Township. We appreciate you. And Joanne in Portage. Shout out Joanne in Portage. I like your little cat profile picture, Joanne. And let's see. I take it the warm weather is gone. Fancy you say that, Craig. That was what we were going to talk about next. So it is, but temporarily. We are going to get colder these next couple days. These are highs. We'll be in the upper 20s on Saturday, but trending much warmer into early to mid next week. So we rebound in that temperature department right back into those 50s by next Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. And with that, we could see some rain in the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe. That'll be kind of our next system that we'll have to watch. Actually, a couple of systems. But as of now, it doesn't look to be too significant. It does appear possibly next weekend, we could see kind of a similar brief cool down, followed by a surge of even warmer air potentially to end the month. So overall, if we're talking about essentially the second half of February, I think it's going to be characterized with a little bit more up and down. But nonetheless, I don't see any significant Arctic blast or anything like that. And if anything, I see just a couple brief, more February-esque shots of cold air, but somewhat brief, followed by warmth. So this warmth mid next week, and then another shot of warmth potentially towards the end of the month that could be even warmer. So that all being said, I think warmer than average is still going to continue to dominate or be the theme. It's just we could have a couple shots of cold, and with that, maybe a couple shots of snow. But right now, the snow forecast, of course, for Friday night into Saturday continues to look not overly impressive. This is, again, a look at that in case you missed it. The time frame to watch, folks, is Friday night into Saturday morning. Just about 1 to 3 inches is the upper limit for that area of slightly darker blue. If you're in that lighter shade of blue, I think you could see some snow, but it's probably not going to amount to much more than an inch at best. So kind of like what we had today, maybe a brief, shot of some snow here or there, but not really enough to lead to impacts. So overall, this graphic is just kind of meant to show you low impacts in that area of light blue, at least for now. That's our thinking. And then possibly some kind of medium range impacts in that area of darker blue. Really quickly, I'll jump ahead to the Celion Group 7-day forecast. Ding, ding, ding. Just to show you that. 32 for tomorrow. We'll start off in the middle 20s. Even colder on Saturday. Sunday comes with more sunshine and a warm up, the start of our warming trend, but Sunday will be pretty windy. So just a heads up about that. So that 38 will feel a little bit chillier before the much warmer air arrives to start next week. Monday, Tuesday, looking fantastic with some sunshine and some warmer temps, and then those rain chances return Wednesday, Thursday. And then, like I said, beyond the 7-day forecast, slightly colder again to end next week into next weekend. At least that's kind of the long-range look at things. That's going to wrap it up. I got to run. I know. Wow, 50. Chris, consider this. We were in the 60s about a week ago today. So it's been a pretty wild February, in case you missed that. Diane, hello. Hi, Tammy and Sturgis. Free fishing weekend. True that. I forgot about that. Futa, I hope I'm saying your name wrong or right. I don't hope I'm saying it wrong. I hope I'm saying it right. And it is definitely not cold enough for ice fishing. I have had a few messages from some very sad ice fishermen and women that this season has been a little brutal. We did get a little bit of some ice fishing a couple weeks ago, maybe like 3-4 weeks ago after that shot of cold. But it has not been another good year. I had some crazy stats from the Sault Ste. Marie Snowmobiling Association that they shared on Facebook. I put this in an article that you can read on our website. If you just go to our website and search like warm February, you'll find the article I wrote up yesterday. I have a lot of stats just on kind of how peculiar this year has been. They were saying that so far this year, their club or their association, this is in Sault Ste. Marie, so in the UP, has only groomed about 450 miles of trail, of snowmobiling trail. And they have to keep track of that because they report to the DNR and some other things. That sounds like a lot, but they said in a typical season, they'll do anywhere from 10 to 13,000 miles of grooming. So they've only done about 450 miles, which is just, they said like crazy. I don't think they've ever seen a year where they've done that little of the trail grooming. So it's not just here in West Michigan. It's really all across the state. Essentially, almost all the climate sites across Michigan, there's only a couple that aren't registering as the warmest first half of February on record. So it's been a pretty crazy year as far as temperatures go. And you don't really need me to tell you that, I'm sure, if you've lived here a long time. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap this up here pretty soon. One thing I can pull up really quick. Let's see how quickly I can do this. Hold on. Climate Perspectives, Minnesota Regional Climate Center. Let's see. Here we go. I'll pull this up for you guys in just a second. This is a cool tool that I like to use. I'll show y'all what's up. All right, because we're just chatting at this point. If you're still listening, I really appreciate you. David, Keith was saying Ironwood has only seen 30 inches of snow. Yeah, that was another crazy stat, David. We were talking about that yesterday. And just the fact, so here, let me just go back to this since we're talking about it. So just the fact, if you look at this, okay, so our average temperature for the first half of February comes in at about 25.5 degrees. Our average for 2024 has been 37.8. Now, average temperature accounts for highs and lows, right? But that is a 12.3 degree departure, as we call it, from average, which is bananas. I honestly don't know if I've ever, like, it's pretty freakishly rare to see a departure in the double digits ever. Like, to get in that range of like 9 to 10 is pretty outlandish. But then to get in like 12-degree range is pretty crazy. And yeah, like, we still have the rest of the month. It still could change slightly. Like, by the end of the month, we might not see a 12-degree departure. It might lower a little bit because things might level out a little bit. But I think we're still, I mean, we're not going to erase that anytime soon. And in fact, like I was saying, the long range projections are looking like this month will continue that warmer trend. And yeah, total precipitation has been lagging. Still early for that, but yeah, total snow 1 inch compared to 7 inches average by this point. We average about 14 inches of snow in the month of February. So essentially halfway through, 7 inches. That's kind of like how I'm computing that. It's not necessarily exact. Grand Rapids would be a little bit more exact. But nonetheless, just a crazy month it's been. So just to reiterate that, check this out. Let me see. See if I can do the thing. Okay. So this map, courtesy the Southeast Regional Climate Center. So if you didn't know, NOAA has climate centers since, I believe, like the 90s across the US. Why? Because it's kind of important to track climate and long-term changes, especially for agriculture and other purposes. All right, this is making me do some wonky things. So this map is kind of cool. If you ever want to check this out, you can go to the Southeast Regional Climate Center, Climate Perspectives. So these are all these different stations. Let me show you what I'm going to do. So we're going to look at mean temperature. So that's average temperature, counts for highs and lows. I'm going to toggle this to a month to date, essentially. So what that means is February 1st through technically yesterday, because they pull data. It comes a day late, essentially, because today's data will process for tomorrow. But essentially, so this is February 1st through the 14th. And I can toggle this to show rankings. So this is going to show the rankings of how warm the first half of February essentially has been. So you can see most sites across our state, if you can see that on your computer or your phone or whatever you're watching on, most of these sites come in as number 1, which means the warmest on record. Traverse City, up towards Petoskey, Charlevoix, Alpena area. You can, gosh, the Zoom thing is killing me. Looks out towards Saginaw. And I can click one of these and you can see. So Gerald R. Ford, for example, that site has been there for 86 years at that station. So this is the number 1 warmest for 86 years. But there's another site in Grand Rapids that has 130 years at that station. And 100% of those years are available. And also the first warmest. Battle Creek goes to 130 years, first warmest. Now there's a couple down here like Coldwater, for example. This one, 122 years, it looks like third warmest. That's kind of interesting. So there's a couple that might not. Jackson, second warmest, but most of these across the state, this is the warmest February that we've essentially seen. Looks like the site in Marquette, that's interesting, Marquette County. 147 years, wow. So that one is fourth warmest. That's interesting. That changed as of, I think, yesterday, because Marquette, when it was the 1st through the 13th, was the first warmest. Anyways, I could look at this stuff. I don't know why I find this so fascinating. Maybe because I'm a meteorologist or something. But as you could tell, I could talk about this stuff a long time. And a big, obviously, impact that's driven a lot of this has been El Nino, which we were telling you about. Chris Farley's favorite. Rip Chris Farley. But El Nino in the Pacific Ocean, climate forecasters, including us, projected that we would see a more mild winter because of that, especially across the Great Lakes. So that's a big part of this. Climate change is a part of it as well. I know people sometimes get a little weird about climate change. It's been very politicized. But yeah, our winters are warming. It's a fact. In the last 50 years, our winter's warming faster than any other season, especially in the Great Lakes region. we've warmed about 5 degrees. That might not sound like a lot. Some people even laugh. They're like, I don't mind. Our winters are getting warmer. It actually does matter, and it doesn't necessarily have the best implications. Basically, the analogy I would use is as our winters continue to warm, especially our seasons continue to warm, but especially our winters, it's like if you were, Olympian, right? And you're a pole vaulter. It's like all of a sudden, if we start adding an inch or two to that pole, all of a sudden you're going to be crushing records more often, right? Because your pole just got longer. It's kind of the same thing with climate change in a warmer climate. The more we continue to push that bell curve a little bit farther to the right towards warm, the more often we're going to see warm records. And those warm records are already outpacing the cold records. It's not to say that pole vaulter isn't going to bite the dust every once in a while. We might see a cold record here and then, but it's the fact that the warm and cold is going to continue to outpace, or the warm is going to continue to outpace the cold. So I hope that makes sense. And that's coming from me, who has been looking at this stuff. I analyze that data myself. You can go do it yourself too. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, a factor. It basically makes these sort of scenarios more likely. And then the El Nino is obviously a huge driver as well. So I will get off of my tangent, and I got to wrap this up. I said that like 20 minutes ago, I think. Farley, big man, little suit. You got it, Fuda. Did anyone think it was going to end up being one of the warmest winters ever? I know it's predicted to be mild. Yeah. David, that's an interesting question. It's all like, when it comes to climate forecasting and long range projection, that'd be like a really bold thing to say for our specific region. So that's probably why you didn't really hear that, because to say, this is going to be the warmest is, we're not, it's kind of, I could go on a long time about this, but basically the reason why you didn't hear that is because no one has really that scientific ability to be like, this season is going to be the warmest. We can say a pretty strong leaning towards warm, but like that could be 2 degrees warmer, that could be 4 degrees warmer, if that makes sense. The El Nino forecasting, when it comes to forecasting for the mid latitudes, it doesn't necessarily lend itself to say, okay, this is going to be like, because we have a super strong El Nino, this is going to be the record warmest. Now, when we look back at the season, there could be some reanalysis that we do that kind of like will help us maybe in the future if we start to see this sort of a scenario playing out again, where we're like, okay, and remember that last time we went from a few years of La Nina to a really strong El Nino, that was like a freakishly warm winter. Maybe we'll start to see that signal, again in the future. But that's probably why you didn't see that. Hopefully that kind of made somewhat sense. Good evening, Cameron. David, I appreciate you. Traveling back to Michigan from Illinois on Monday. Smooth sailing, Michelle. So smooth. It's going to be perfect. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. I've said that 18,000 times. Beer Barbecue Bash, Growler Stadium, Kalamazoo Saturday. Wow. I might need to get some tickets to that. That sounds like a good time. It will be cold. Dress warm. Okay, I got to go get on TV in T-minus 14 minutes. Tune in on the Arc at 10. That's what pays the bills around here. And then News Channel 3 at 11. We'll have you covered. All right, bye, guys. Thank you so much, and take care.